So yeah, this is the chapter for mineral nutrition. Okay. So in this chapter, we are going to see regarding a detailed explanation about mineral nutrition. What are the minerals and how will be absorbed on the basis of plants. So the basic needs for all the living organisms are essentially the same. They require macromolecules such as carbohydrates, proteins and fats, and water, minerals. So, all these things are required for their growth and development. This chapter focuses mainly on inorganic plant nutrition, wherein you will study the methods to identify the elements essential to grow, and development of plants and the criteria for establishing the essentiality. Okay, how the inorganic nutrients such as minerals are essential for plant nutrition, mainly for their primary metabolic factors such as growth, development, and even for the reproduction purpose also. So how important those minerals are, you will study the role of essential elements and their major deficiencies also, symptoms and the mechanism of absorption of these essential elements. So what are essential? If they lack, we call it as deficiency. Symptoms and mechanism of absorption to these essential elements. This chapter also introduce you briefly to the significance and mechanism of biological nitrogen fixation also. So methods to study the requirement of mineral nutrition requirements of plants. So 1860, Julius von Satz. So he is the one who is prominent German botanist. He demonstrated for the first time that the plants could be grown to maturity in a defined nutrient solution. Very simple. What he have done is, he have taken a water. In that water, he have growing the plants. He was adding the minerals and he was removing the minerals. While adding the minerals, whatever the growth he have seen, whatever the metabolism whatever the physiological growth he have seen, and while removing what is the toxicity, or while removing what is the deficiency we have seen, if you add more, what is the toxicity we can able to see. All these things he observed in the absence of soil. So the technique of growing plants in nutrient solution is known as hydroponics. So since then, a number of improvised methods has been employed. So growing a plants in a nutrient solution, we will be calling it as hydroponics. Very simple. Usually the money plant or some of the plants, you can grow it at home in water itself. That means not only pure form of water, you need an essential nutrient solution. Means you have to add required nutrients to that water, so then only the growth will be possible, or else the growth cannot be possible only with the pure form of distilled water. Okay, this thing to be noted, that has been employed to try and determine the mineral nutrient essential for plants. The essence of all these methods involves the culture of plants in soil free. So it is very easy to grow plants in soil free once we know this technique. This technique is finding very easy way how to grow plants without soil, and you can able to grow the plants into many compartments. Like you can make it into like a 2-story building or a 4-story building. You can go for an upper vase also to grow numerous plants in a defined mineral solution. So the methods require purified water. So what are the things that will be required? Purified water is required and mineral nutrient salts will be required. Can you explain why this is so essential? Okay. After a series of experiments in which the roots of the plants were immersed in nutrient solution, wherein an element was added, removed, or given a varied concentration, a mineral solution suitable for a plant growth was obtained. By this method, essential elements were identified. So whatever is essential, we have to add it. Whatever is not essential, we have to remove it. And in excess, if we add, what is the toxicity we get? If we remove some essential element, what are the deficiencies we get? It has to be noted. And their deficiency symptoms has to be discovered. So hydroponics have some successful employed as a technique for the commercial production of vegetables such as tomato, seedless cucumber and lettuce. So the commercial production of tomato, seedless cucumber and lettuce are being done with hydroponics technique so far. It is been emphasized that nutrient solution must be adequately aerated to obtain optimal growth, because the root system has to breathe enoughly. So we have to produce some essential gases requirement for that. Aeration is very much essential. So what would happen if solution were poorly aerated? Yeah. So here, if poorly aerated, the plant will die. So diagrammatic view of hydroponics technique is given in this figure. So in this figure of 12.1, you can able to see this is the aerating tube. So continuously, this you can able to see the similar aerating tube in the fish tank also. Continuously the air will be sent, and this air bubbles will be produced through this. Through this, oxygen will be developed in this. So for aerating. Even plants need oxygen for its growth, and this is the roots. And here for the stability we have kept the cotton and funnel. This is the way we add the nutrients and the plant. And next, see the essential mineral elements. Most of the minerals present in the soil can enter plants through roots, because roots are very essential. In fact, more than 60 elements of 105 discovered so far are found in different plants. So more than 60, we have discovered nearly 105 elements. Out of that, 60 you can able to see in plants. Some plant species accumulate selenium and some other gold. So while some plants near the nuclear test site take up the radioactivity, strontium, right? So strontium, these techniques can able to detect the mineral even at a very low concentration, that is 10 to the power of minus 9 grams per ml. So the question is whether all the diverse mineral elements present in a plant, for example, gold and selenium are mentioned above. So are mentioned above are really essential? No. So they are really essential for plants? No. How do we decide which is essential plants, which is essential elements for plants and what is not? Okay. So let's see the next thing, criteria for essentiality. The criteria for essentiality of an element are given below. So let's talk about this very important thing about this. Hydroponic plant production. You can able to see the pump here, which will be mainly for aerating the water present. So plants that are grown in the tube are placed in a slight incline. You can make it in a tube. So this is actually a tube in which they have made the holes. In that they dip this plantlets. The pump is mainly used to circulate the nutrient solution. So from the reservoir, this is the reservoir to the elevated end of the tube. So the solution flows down the tube and returns again to the reservoir due to gravity. So insert shows a plant whose roots are continuously bathed in the aerated nutrient solution. The arrow indicates the direction of the water flow. Yeah, you can able to see, and this is the magnifying image of this. Next, criteria for essentiality of the elements given below. The element must be absolutely necessary for supporting the plant growth and reproduction. These are the primary things. In the absence of the element, the plants do not complete their life cycle and set the seeds. So if in the absence of element, there is no. The requirement of the element must be specific, not replaceable by another element. So in other words, deficiency of any one element cannot met by supplying some other elements. So it has to be their own. So you cannot like unambiguity. So it will show the unambiguity way. So none of the other element can replace the role of this. The element must be directly involved in the metabolism of the plants. So, based on the above criteria, only few elements has been found absolutely essential for plant growth and metabolism. These elements are further divided into two broad categories, that is quantitative requirement, macronutrients and micronutrients. Let's see detailedly about the macro and micro. Macronutrients are generally present in the plant tissue in larger amounts, in excess of 10 millimoles per kg of dry matter. So the macronutrients are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. These are very essential, right? So nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, potassium, calcium, magnesium. Of these, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are obtained mainly from carbon dioxide and water, while the others are absorbed from soil as mineral nutrients. The list are once again carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. So for P, potassium, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, calcium, magnesium. So, and these three are being from water and carbon dioxide, and remaining are being obtained through the soil. If it is less than 10 millimoles per kg of dry matter, they include, so here micronutrients, here it is molybdenum, manganese, iron, ifer, chromium, copper, boron, and N for nickel, and finally we are going to end with Z, that is zinc. Okay, so molybdenum and manganese, iron, copper and chromium, and RO, which means rhodium. Okay, sorry, which means boron. So and N for nickel and Z for zinc, which is less than 10 millimoles per kg of dry matter. So in addition to 17 essential elements that so far we have named above, there are some beneficial elements such as sodium, silicon, cobalt, selenium. Okay, sodium, silicon, cobalt, selenium. Out of all this, these are also beneficial elements. They are required by higher plants. What is that? Sodium, selenium, silicon, cobalt. So essential elements can also be grouped into 4 categories based on their diverse function. Let's see. Previously we have seen the very importantly the essential elements of micro and macro. Essential elements are the components of biomolecules and they are the structural elements of the cell. So carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen, they are the structural elements, we call it as. Essential elements are the components of the energy related. Magnesium in chlorophyll, phosphorus in ATP. Essential elements are activate and inhibit the enzymes. For example, magnesium is an activator for both RUBP, so ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase, and phosphoenol pyruvate carboxylase, pepcase. So both of which are critical enzymes in photosynthesis carbon fixation. Zinc is an activator of alcohol dehydrogenase, and molybdenum is for nitrogenase during the nitrogen metabolism. So few other elements that fall in category. Once again, magnesium is very essential for pepcase and rubisco in these two ways, and molybdenum is very essential for nitrogenase. Zinc is very essential for alcohol dehydrogenase. So these are very essential for biochemical pathways. Some essential elements can alter the osmotic potential of a cell. Right? Potassium plays a very important role in opening and closing of stomata. You may recall the role of minerals as solute in determining the water potential of the cell. Role of micro and macro. So individually we are going to see, and deficiency, and next the toxicity, how the minerals are being absorbed. Yeah. So let's see about role of macro and micronutrients. Essential elements perform several functions. They participate in various metabolic processes in the plant cell, such as permeability of the cell membrane, maintenance of osmotic concentration of the cell sap, and electron transport systems, which means iron, and buffering action, enzymatic activity, acts as a major constituent of macromolecules and coenzymes. Various forms and functions of essential nutrient elements are given below. The very first thing is nitrogen. This is essential nutrient element required by plants in a greatest amount because it is absorbed as nitrates. So through some are also taken as nitrates and ammonium ions. They are required all by the parts of the plants, particularly the meristematic tissue and metabolically active cells. Meristematic tissue and metabolically active cells. Nitrogen is one of the major constituent of protein. Metabolically active, meristematic, and major constituent of the plant. For the nucleic acids, vitamins, and hormones. Phosphorus. This is absorbed by the plants from the soil in the form of phosphate ions. H2PO4 minus and HPO4 2 minus. So phosphorus is very important constituent of cell membranes because phospholipid bilayer we call it as, right, and certain proteins. All nucleic acids and nucleotides, they are required for all phosphorylated reactions. So even ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and we have the membrane phosphoric acid in all those things. It is absorbed as potassium ions. It is required in abundant quantities in the meristematic tissue, buds, leaves, and root tip. Potassium is maintain the anionic cationic balance actually in cells involving protein synthesis. So that's why it is very important in meristematic tissue. Opening and closing of stomata, activation of enzymes, and maintenance of turgidity of the cells. Next, calcium. So calcium absorbs into the soil in the form of calcium ions. Calcium is required by meristematic differentiating tissue during cell division. It is used in synthesis of cell wall, particularly as calcium pectate in the middle lamella. It is also needed during the formation of mitotic spindle. So, and it accumulates in the older leaves. It is involved in normal functioning of the cell membranes. So it activates certain enzymes and play a very important role in regulating metabolic activities. Magnesium. It is absorbed in the form of divalent magnesium ions and it is activates the enzymes of respiration. Like we already have seen peptidase and rubisco. Photosynthesis are involved. Photosynthesis are involved. The synthesis of DNA and RNA. Magnesium is constituent of the ring structure of chlorophyll and it has to maintain the ribosomal structure also. Chlorophyll structure, ribosome structure, peptidase, rubisco, and mainly for photosynthesis and respiration, DNA and RNA. Sulfur. Sulfur is in the form of sulfate ions. Sulfur is present in two amino acids, cysteine and methionine, and it is the main constituent of several coenzymes. So vitamins like thiamine, biotin, coenzyme A, and ferredoxin. So B1, B7, so one coenzyme A and ferredoxin. Iron. Iron, it is obtained as ferric ions. It is required in larger amounts compared to other micronutrients. We need more of iron only. It is important constituent of protein involved in transfer of electrons like ferredoxin and cytochrome. It is reversible oxidizer from Fe2 plus to Fe3 plus during electron transfer. It activates the catalase enzymes. It is essential for the formation of chlorophyll. Yeah, thank you.